Okay, and we are live. Hello, dear
Hello.
Cathy Stefanac Ogren. It's wonderful to see you again. The truth is that I see you on a regular basis.
That is true.
Um, we should tell everybody that you are a dear critique partner, part of my critique buddy group, whom I revere. And you're back to celebrate a wonderful, endearing new picture book. Tell us all about it, Cathy.
Okay. Well, let me show what it is first. It's the little red chair, and it's about a little red chair. I originally saw this chair, and a very, very good friend, well, we've been lifelong friends. She saw it in an antique shop, and she had a Victorian home, and she loved it. She bought it, took it home, had it recovered in a beautiful red fabric. And it was in her home for many, many years until she and her husband decided to downsize and move to Florida. So they had a huge, huge estate sale and they got rid of lots and lots of things. And my daughter had been with me to my friend's house and she saw that chair. She loved it. And we talked about it. And so at the estate sale, my friend invited us over and we got to beforehand look. And so the day of the estate sale, my daughter actually bought that chair and we brought it home with us. And she now has it in her bedroom, in the corner of her bedroom where her kids like to sit and read.
And I'm going to ask you a strange question. This you talked about downsizing, but this is a small little chair.
It's just, well, it's not as small. If you think of a child's rocker, it's bigger than that. It actually, they decided it was is possibly, and this is in the back of my book. It's a salesman sample way back when they didn't have the big box stores and stores that salesmen would go around with smaller objects. Like they had stoves that it would be like a working stove, but it was small. And so this chair was, they think that's what the clerk at the antique store said, that it was a salesman sample. And it's if I sit in it, I look like I'm too big for it, but I can definitely comfortably sit in it. And now there's another thought that has come out too, that it's also been called a slipper chair, which I was not aware of. And that was when back in like the 1800s and also in Europe, when women used to wear these huge clothing dresses, it was hard for them to bend over to put on their shoes or their slippers. And so they would sit in this chair. And of course, this is for wealthy people. They would have their maid or someone slip shoes on, or slip the shoes on their feet. And that's why it's called a slipper chair. So it could be either or.
Hmm. So and because you talk about an estate sale and not a yard sale and selling antiques, I'm guessing that it cost more than $20.
Yes, it did cost more than $20.
Uh-huh.
But because it's my friend, we were definitely given a nice discount.
Yeah, you were downsized. So I love this book. Take us through it. Talk about the illustrator. Were you involved in getting Alexandra Thompson involved? Was this an editorial decision by Sleeping Bear Press?
No, they chose the illustrator. I had no idea who it would be, but with my first book, they chose the illustrator also. I loved what she did in my first book. That was Leslie Breen. And this book, Alexandra, I absolutely love it. And actually, it was funny because when we first met, and we first met face to face at our book launch, she said that when she read the book, she loved it. She goes, I have to illustrate this. So, well, it wasn't the book, it was a manuscript she was reading. So she accepted, and I, it's, I mean, she's done a beautiful job of the whole thing. So, and
It,
I took pictures of the real chair, and because I had asked my editor if we could make the chair in the story like the real chair. So I took pictures, I took measurements, and I sent them all to Alexandra, and she did a marvelous job.
I looked at the picture of the chair, and then I did a big close up, and it has these little wheels on it.
Yes.
So, so show us, read to us from the book. It's an endearing book. Um, I will tell you why I think so in a minute, but go ahead, persuade the people watching and listening.
Do you want me to read the entire book?
No, I don't
Okay.
want you to get into trouble with Sleeping Bear,
Oh,
but
oh,
I want people to see how beautiful it is and run out and buy it.
okay. Well, let me just start out how it starts out in the first couple pages. And here's, you can see this. There's yeah. It says, the little red chair tightens its buttons, fluffed its tufts, and straightened its tiny brass wheels. Squeak, squeak. Maybe, thought the little red chair. May maybe today. Look, Mommy, said Mia. Again, if you see, look, Mommy, and there's a little girl there in the antique shop where the little red chair is. And she says, look, Mommy, said Mia, the chair is just my size. Oh, Mia, said Mommy, it's tattered and torn. Mia scooched into the chair. No, it's cozy and warm. And that's how it starts. And they Mia convinces her mom to bring the chair home. They reupholster it together. They, as we said, it says in the book, they spruce it up. And Mia and the little red chair become best friends. And they do everything together. They like she'll sit by the fire together. She sits, she tells the chair her dreams. She plays the chair is like the Tuffet to Little Miss Muffet when she's reading her nursery rhymes. And it's a sweet story, but again, the story goes on and she grows up, Mia grows up, and when she grows up, she spends less time with the chair, but the chair is always there waiting for her. And the chair, the personality of the chair is that it actually has different, I've used the alliteration of squeakity squeak. And when the chair gets excited, it's squeakity squee, or when it's sad, it's squeakity sniff.
I'm going to intercede now for a second. One of the challenges that you have to rise to when you're writing a book about an object and you want to create a personal being is finding the voice. Where did you get this idea of the chair talking through its wheels?
Well, after seeing the chair, first of all, I didn't want it to be a chair that walked by itself or did things like that. That would be like an over stretch of a personification. So but I wanted it to have feelings. What I thought about it when Mia first sat in the chair, when she's saying it's cozy and warm, to me, I was thinking of the little chair like giving me a hug in it's the fabric, even though it was old and torn. The chair is delighted that someone is finally interested in it and just kind of gives her a little hug there. And so that's how I started it. But again, like I said, I didn't want it to be talking, but it does have internal thoughts that we see throughout the book. And then it has the personality is also its wheels, and its wheels do squeak. So that's how I used it too.
So this is actually something that the wheels squeak. Okay, and the word scooch it comes back in the end of the story when another generation discovers the chair, and also the daughter, Mia's daughter, scooches into the chair. Is that a word in English? I don't even know that word.
Oh, it's a word that I I don't think I use it a lot, but it's something that I grew up with. People, scooch over. You're like, move over. It's
No, but I
just
mean, is there a word like that?
yeah.
Okay,
I don't
I had
know.
to
I
wait
should probably look it up in the dictionary. Maybe I just
had,
made it.
no,
But
I had to wait 7 decades to discover this word. So thanks, Cathy. And show us some more of the lovely illustrations, please.
oh, definitely.
We
Yep.
should have Alexandra on the program.
She's wonderful. She is very, let me take this cover off here.
And you guys don't live too far apart, but you never met. And you're meeting now at book signings. It's incredible.
Well, here we have Mia and the little chair, like the different things they do together. And oh, this is something that I had learned also. Look what she did with the end pages. That
Yeah,
is the fabric from the chair. So I thought that was amazing.
it is.
In the antique store, whoops, bear with me here. In the
Uh,
antique store, it's very detailed, and Alexandra said that every single thing in that antique store has something to do with in her life. So, and I hadn't known that, so it was really nice to see. And I noticed that things that, like, my grandmother, there's a washboard, my grandmother had that, and there's other things in there. So it was kind of neat to see those things in the book too.
One of the ironic things is, you write a story, and the editor picks an illustrator usually. Sometimes they um, discuss it with the author. Sometimes they just say, "Well, you like this work, don't you?" And then oftentimes we don't see the illustrations. Uh, we're not a real partner outside of the manuscript.
That was wonderful with my editor. She had they sent sketches to me, and I got to look at all of the sketches. And there were certain things that, with the chair, I had noticed some things, and they corrected those. And we talked about it, but I got to see everything, and it was just, I mean, Alexandra did such a good job. There was hardly anything that, I could say, you can't do that. But my editor noticed some things that she had changed, so it was great. I just wanted to show you this too. Here's a spread where it's through the seasons after after the chair is lost. It's just waiting for someone to come and find it, but no one comes and years pass. And so you've got the seasons where it says, summer heat made the little red chair uncomfortable. Fall leaves scraped against the window, frightening it. Winter winds were not warm and cozy. Spring rains reminded it of me playing Little Miss Muffet. Loneliness seeped into every tub. And I thought she did a great job with the illustrations there.
And you've done a great job with the lyrical writing, to the extent where I wanted to ask you, you've personified the chair so well, and it ends up in the attic, in the dark, cold, lonely attic, not knowing whether anyone will ever come. Um, did you worry that you had personified it too much, that the kids would identify so much with the chair alone in the dark?
Well, actually, I wanted the emotional feel of it, and that's why. And it didn't occur to me that kids would think it was too personified. I mean, I wanted them to feel like, oh, it's
No, I mean, like it has such angst. They're all alone in the attic.
well, wouldn't you have angst all alone in
No,
an
I,
attic?
no,
Please come and get.
I love the story, and sometimes you read a story, and especially if you know the if you know the author personally, you try and get under their skin to the extent where you're trying to say, well, what guts Cathy had to write that. The chair is the Mia goes off to college, and the chair is forgotten and left in some corner of the house.
Well, the thing there too is I mean, if I didn't have that there, I think a big chunk of the story would have been lost. So it was like the
No, no,
tension.
no, it's wonderful, and then the chair becomes rediscovered. So I mean, the pain and the
Mhm.
gain make this into a very endearing story. I was just admiring you for having the guts to have this this emotional valley in the arc, a very deep one. That's all.
Well, thank you for that. So
And it's really a gorgeous book. It's out August the 1st, Sleeping Bear Press. They are not a big press, but they do wonderful books.
they do. I
And
mean, I'm amazed at all the books that Sleeping Bear Press does. I mean, well, my first two are with Sleeping Bear Press, so my picture books, so they're wonderful.
and this one, Cathy, you did less research, I'm guessing, because the chair belongs to you.
Right.
And in your previous book, it was very research heavy, and it was also about a cheese weighing a ton in the White House 150 years ago. Um, and this was not an own voices story. It was a great story, but this one is own voices. I mean, nobody's going to say that this isn't Cathy Ogren's story.
That is true. And well, that what when I thought about it too, after seeing the chair, the little red chair, and then seeing it at my daughter's house and the girls really loving it. Um, I thought that, this chair, it has a story to tell. And so I took the part where it's found in an antique store, which is true. It was found in an antique store. And then from there, kind of made it my own story. Or so, and yeah, it went through a couple drafts and it just turned, I just really liked it. And the fact that I could use the alliteration with the squeakity squee and then the little internal rhyme there too. I thought that was kind of neat. I think kids, and there's a picture too of Mia sitting in the chair where the chair gives her a ride and it shows that was one thing that we were trying to decide how to do it because so it ends up being right down here where she's just in the and she's just on hardwood floors, just kind of sliding down the hallway in the chair, and it goes squeakity wee.
Do the grandchildren do that nowadays?
Do that? No. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
the picture at the end of the book with those four gorgeous blonde children. Those are yours?
those are my grandchildren. They're not mine.
No, they are.
I'm past that stage.
No, they're yours. So
Yeah.
let's go back to your origin. Kathy's a simple name, but the Stefanac Ogren, these are not your run-of-the-mill names. You have two of them. I never asked you. I'm asking you now.
Stefanik is my father, mother and father. My grandparents immigrated here from Czech. At that point, it was Czechoslovakia. So they came here, went through Ellis Island, um, then into New York, had their like $20, and they had a place to go. And the place that they went, because my grandmother lived on a farm in Czechoslovakia, and they came to Wisconsin, and that's where. Well, I was born in Milwaukee. My grandmother and grandfather worked very, very hard. I mean, they really worked. And my grandmother wanted something more for my dad. So she was working two jobs. She ended up buying a house. My grandfather lost his job. He was digging ditches for the gas company in Milwaukee, but then lost his job. So, but she sent my father to a private school, and he was well. My father was wonderful. He's passed away, so,
Sorry.
but I mean, she was just a very, very strong person. So,
And I've you've been on the show before, so I'm going to refer people to the previous interview of your wonderful book, Pew. Hold it up for a second, which came out about a year or two
a year
ago.
ago in March, there it
Yeah,
is.
so you're very prolific lately.
Yeah.
You've had an amazing career of starts and spurts and hiatuses or hiati or hiatu or haiku or
Hiatus.
whatever hiatuses. Um, but you are, as I said, you're one of the one in several thousand authors who gets traditional publishing deals, and you're represented by a wonderful agent, Vicky Silvaggio, and you have wonderful books coming out. And when I interview authors, especially ones that I know, I'm always intrigued. Um, what do you think your secret of success is?
Let me say, never giving up and just hanging in there. I feel I felt like I had something to offer. And people get discouraged when they get rejections. Of course, everyone does. I mean, I if I had all the rejections I've had in my life, yeah, we could have a huge bonfire.
More than me, more than
Oh,
300.
oh yeah, I am sure. I've been doing this for a while. So, so
Okay, I won't ask you for how many years. It's an avocado question. Okay,
correct.
but you had your first children's book published a few decades ago.
Right. And they were early readers,
Mhm.
beginning readers for children. So which
Before
was,
there was
and then
internet.
as I continued on, and I did have a hiatus because I was teaching and there wasn't enough time. And then, just bringing with my daughter as growing up. But so I intermittently I'd be writing a little bit and sending them off, and until when I retired from teaching, that's when I really put the metal to the pedal, so my foot to the pedal on it. So
And so there's a couple of things in your career that are noteworthy in my mind. You told me, I think, that you grew up in two places. You started in Milwaukee and then you moved.
started in Milwaukee, moved to Illinois, um, and then uh, I was married in Illinois, and we moved.
Kathy, I'm always looking for the trauma, I'm always looking for the childhood trauma.
Oh, well, no, here's the childhood trauma. It was an adult trauma. I grew up. Most of my growing up was in a small town in Lincoln, Illinois. It was very, very different than being in the city because I used to live across the street from the old Milwaukee County Zoo. So we would walk to the zoo and do all this stuff, and then we moved to this small town, and it was like, oh, there's just the downtown was the courthouse was in the square. We, kind of walk around the square, and they had a tornado because a lot of tornadoes kind of came through there, and they had a telephone booth on top of the police station where people would go up there and watch to see if the tornado which way it was coming, and they would call downstairs so the warning would go out. So that was kind of an interesting thing. Plus Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, everything was Abraham Lincoln there, which was interesting. That was very interesting. So, but and then after that, my husband was transferred to Wisconsin. And so that's where my daughter was born. And then we were transferred out to New York, same. And then he lost his job. So that's where my adult trauma came in. We couldn't sell our house, so we ended up going, and we lived in Connecticut too, and then Massachusetts, and that's after Connecticut. He found another job but lost it. So we were living in an apartment. We actually went into a little studio apartment. So it was until we sold the home, and then we were able to buy a home of our own.
Mhm. But
So
financially, you made it in the end.
yes, yes, and
And
it
and
was.
and, and that's a good thing because I'm going to segue to a little pre-conversation that we had. People think that successful authors make money.
Well, let's put it this way. I think that there are many successful authors that do very well. An author like I am will never make a lot of money, but I'm not really interested in the money. I just love the fact that I can write a book and see it on a bookshelf or see it in the hands of a child reading it. I love it. And I've gotten some pictures from friends and even comments. My daughter loves this book, and we have to read it every night. And someone sent me a picture that as soon as she got it, she put it on her bed with after they read it on her bed with all of her stuffed animals, and they're sitting there right there. So it's a very sweet thing
It
to
it
hear,
it
and
do-
that's what I like.
it doesn't get better than that. And I've heard that you've received an excellent Kirkus review and the Pat Zietlow Miller loves the book, and we love Pat. I also felt that there was a little bit of a nod to Sophie Squash somewhere in your story, the bond between Mia and the chair.
I never thought of that, but that's probably very true because the Sophie Squash is just a classic too. So
And it's also about the size, right? Just the right size, right?
yeah.
And the snugly cozy, it's just the right size. And it's a it's wonderful to have this acknowledgement, isn't it?
Yes, well, to have people say, and even some of the comments on Goodreads or Amazon are really they're touching to read. So
It's a precious book. Cathy, can you, without getting the people of Sleeping Bear awakened from their hibernation, can you can you read us a few more lines? It's so well written.
okay, let's see what I want to. Well, this is another one that I really like, another spread that I like. It's when after they bring the chair home. Um, Mia helped mommy choose new red upholstery. Mia's favorite color. The little chair stood patiently as they stuffed and stretched, pinched and pulled, stitched and stapled. Afterward, Mia polished the wheels to a golden glow. You're beautiful, she cried. And the chair goes squeaky squeaky. So, and again, I like that. And just the fact that, and if you notice that Alexandra put little stars around the chair. So it's that kind of gives the chair personality too, even though, a chair can't do that, but it's still there. And the little squeakity squeak personality of the chair.
So now I'm going to ask you a question that I don't always ask, um, and that is, you mentioned that at the end of the day, the artist somehow made the book her own. She didn't ask you, Cathy, what bric-a-brac would you like from your life in the antique store? How do you feel about that?
Oh, I think that it's wonderful. In fact, we've been doing all of our book signings and story times together, which is great because we've gotten to know each other very well. I would love her to do another book if I ever get another book published, but um, we call it our book because if it weren't for her illustrations, it just wouldn't be the same book. And so it's a collaboration between both of us, but it's the illustrations to me that really make a book.
Okay, so I mean, is it important for the author? I'm leading you a little bit. Is it
Okay.
important for the author to leave space so that the illustrator, whom you don't know, whom you've never met, takes your book and turns it into her or his or their book?
Well, and you should know that we've been told, as for our craft, if you're writing a picture book, you don't have to put in all the descriptions. You need to leave room for the illustrator. And I let it say it's the illustrator doing their magic because they do magic. And so and we've had editors who don't want to see any art notes either. So there you have it. That way the illustrator can do anything. And sometimes illustrators really surprise authors with what they've come up with too.
So this is a two book deal with Sleeping Bear.
No, they took Pew first, and then actually they had Pew and the Little Red Chair manuscripts with them. They decided to or offered me a contract for Pew first, but they held on to the Little Red Chair because my editor really loved it. So she held on to it for over a year. Um, and then as I think as Pew was getting finished, I don't remember the exact timeline for this, but then I was offered a manuscript for the Little Red Chair. It went to acquisitions, and everyone agreed that it would make a great book. So That made
It
me
is
very,
it is a great book, and I expect great things from it. And so your editor at Sleeping Bear is Barb McNally,
yes.
and Barb, we want to have you on the show. Um, we don't always have the opportunity to interview editors about their process. But Barb, you did well taking these books. Um, so what are the future plans, Cathy? What do you have cooking?
I did I have a manuscript that I did a revise and resubmit to a publisher, and they've been holding it for 9 months. So um, they're still interested. I'm not really sure where it will go. Sometimes, after they read the revision, they'll either say, "Can you revise it again?" or "We love it," or "No, it's just not going to work for us." So I'm waiting to hear, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they would pick it up. So,
Okay.
and I also promoting this book has taken a lot of time away from my writing, and that bothers me because I would just like to sit down and write and not worry about having to promote. So I'm looking for the time where I have that space of time to get back to writing.
So the publishers, they turn us into marketing people that we usually aren't.
Yes. Yeah, I mean they help a little bit. I mean, well, Sleeping Bear Press is a small press. So it's up to us, and I still think it's always up to us to promote your own book. Um, but
Sure.
it's hard to know what is the right thing to do. And and then again, when you do a lot of promotion, it does cost some things, cost a bit to do promotions. And as far as just little things that you may have, if you give book giveaways, I mean, the presses will give, if you ask your publisher, they will help you with that. But I mean, if you're giving away book every week, well, they're not going to do that every week, I don't think.
So, Cathy, what I want to go back to the things in your life, I think, that made you a splendid writer, right? You've always been writing. You grew up surrounded by books in your home. You became a teacher and then a librarian. Um, what I'm going to ask you again, what are the important steps growing as an author? For example, in this book that's written in such a beautiful way, how many revisions, how many drafts um, is being opened to critiques? What is the secret? Tell us.
Well, I think first of all, I think you have to have a passion. You have to have a passion for writing, which I do. I've always written. I wrote plays. Well, even when I was a teacher, I wrote plays that we put on for the school and for parents. Um, and I've just always liked doing that, and it just it makes me happy inside when I can do that too. But it does. You have to learn your craft also. I mean, when I started writing, there weren't, I mean, now you have numerous classes and places where you can join where there are authors that can help you, and you can kind of, well, like critique groups, you take care of one another and they help you and you learn this. But there's still a lot for me to learn too. But I think it's a passion that you may have, and just even finding the right words and learning how to do that, the structure of a story, reading a lot of picture books.
But to learn, okay, you have to be prepared to say, I have room for growth. I am not the author that I want to be. I want to be a better one.
Well, of course. And
This is a
I
big,
mean, until the day I die, you still are going to be learning things because there's always something new, something a
but
little bit different.
Cathy, but you learn if you open your ears and you listen and you want to learn. A lot of authors will get a review, will get a critique, and they won't open their ears and they'll say, oh, well, you just didn't understand me. You didn't, there's something wrong with you, not with my writing. How many revisions for the Little Red Chair?
Oh, you know, I don't know, but I mean, there were many revisions, and then it would go back where the revisions would get less and less, but there were like maybe a sentence that didn't sound right or a word that you could put in that was a better word. Always looking for, those adjectives or the things that will make it give it heart. With this book, I was definitely looking for heart and things that would do that, and that was just positioning it, as Mia grows up. Um, and of course, the chair kind of feels a little bit left out, but it's always was there for her. So I can't even tell you. I know that yeah, I mean, if you look, I call 90, revisions, you can see on your computer, but it may have been a word or two. So major revisions, I think that I would probably say 3 or 4 major revisions, but then after that, it was lots of different ones, just condensing, making sure that I'm leaving room for the illustrator and so that's where you're cutting and looking and whatever. So,
Incredible. Cathy, it's a wonderful book. And you are wonderful. I mean, I know you personally, we've never met. You're a wonderful, generous person, and very open. And it's been a wonderful interview. Is there anything that I haven't asked you
no,
that I should have?
no, I think you've asked some very good questions. So
Well, I try. Um, if there's anything I didn't ask you, I will ask you next time I see you, and maybe we'll have another interview when your next book comes out.
that's
But I do want to, in our previous interview, we did talk about your growing up writing plays, like Maurice Sendak's Rosie. I see you as a little Rosie, writing plays for the neighborhood and later for schools. But now that I think about it, I listened to Alan Johnson give a talk about the picture book as theater.
oh,
And
interesting.
maybe this is your secret sauce, because a good picture book is a performance. So we're gonna have
Like
to.
each one is like a scene. Yep. I guess I don't think I've ever thought of it that way, but that's actually a very good analogy.
Now the thing is, you see, when you have this background, right? You don't have to think about it. It's like it's you. It's Cathy's DNA. It's your genetics when you write. So I'm going to go over your wonderful story now. The Little Red Chair, right? The Sleeping Bear Press, just out last month, and illustrated by Alexandra Thompson, Barb McNally at the helm, the editor, and Vicky Salvaggio, your agent. All wonderful people, and
Definitely.
you are the wonderful author of this book. And I'm going to go over it and see whether I can extract any Hamlet from your craft.
Well, let me know what you find.
I shall, as you know, next week.
Sounds good.
Cathy Stefanac Ogren. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, you did. That
Yay!
perfect. Perfect.
I was so excited to interview you, that I forgot to tell people who I am. So I'm Mel Rosenberg, and I am the host of the Children's Literature Channel of the New Books Network. If you have been watching, then you've been seeing us in Greece and in America, talking to one another over Zoom. And if you're listening to the NBN podcast, hello, everybody. Run out and buy this precious, endearing, heartwarming, beautifully written and illustrated book. Cathy, it's been great speaking to you.
Well, thank you very much, Mel. And I have to say that Mel is also a very talented author and a wonderful person to work with.
Well, thank you, dear. This show is about you, but it just shows how generous you are. Take care,
Okay.
and we'll see each other next week.
Okay, thanks so much, Mel. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.